Paul, have any of the characters in your books come from a fantasy role-playing game?
Yes, most of them. Let's see. If I look at Heir to the Crown, the character of Anna was a player character. That was your character.
That was me.
Revy Bloom was our friend Brad.
Yes. Arnhem Castor.
Arnhem Castor was our late friend Jeffrey Parker. And later on, Jack Marlowe is our friend Steve. And so they've all made it in the book. They've been changed to a certain extent in order to fit the narrative, of course. But the basic concept of the characters is true to their vision. All the other characters, for the most part, were NPCs that I ran, including Gerald. He was and Beverly, for that matter. They were just such interesting characters, and they developed over the course of the game that they kind of developed a personality of their own.
And what's interesting is the first book isn't even based on the game. It's based on a 6-hour role-playing session that you and I had.
Yes.
To give a background to my character.
Just to fill in the background of the character. Yes, that's always fun to do. And that was all originally off the cuff, made up as we went along just to sort of fill in. We used to do that a lot with role-playing games. Character would generate their character, and then we would play out some of their background just to sort of fill in before the main story began what the characters were like, and that formed a big piece of it. The other characters in the other series were all non-player characters. So Ludwig, Charlene, although that wasn't an original name, and Athgar and Natalia were all non-player characters.
Yeah, and Athgar and Natalia weren't anything like how they are in the book.
Well, they were one was a life mage and a water mage. That was about the only thing that was the same, and there was a relationship between them, and that was it. That was the only thing that made it through to the book. Everything else was new for the story.
And so have you any ideas that aren't based in your role-playing game, or do they all come from there? Because I know you have future ideas of what you want to write.
So one of the things I like to do is if I have an idea, I'll sometimes run it as a game just to sort of test the concept and see if it floats, more or less.
Oh, I've noticed that.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been running games since, well, I guess for half a century, almost.
Almost. I think you started when you were 12 or 13.
Yeah, pretty close to it. So yeah, I've been running games for a very, very long time. I've had a lot to draw on. You know, in my very first Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I ran, I had a tribe of orcs that was more or less friendly.
I didn't know that.
And it was the Black Axe tribe, which of course I used in...
You never told me that. Oh my
I used them in the Frozen Plain. In fact, Karak, the chieftain, was an NPC character. He was the chieftain of that tribe in that old role-playing game that I had.
I didn't know you then.
No, that was before I knew you, or you knew me. Yeah, so I've got all kinds of stuff I can mine for information.
So you have more ideas than probably time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have on occasion looked back through some of my old notes from old games and picked out names. In the Heir to the Crown series, Herdwin Steelarm is a dwarf character, and when he goes home, or I shouldn't say home, but he goes to Stone Castle, he meets Gellion.
Yes.
Gellion was an NPC from years and years ago.
Really?
Yep.
Which campaign?
Oh, yeah. I think that was before I knew you, actually. Very, very old.
That's more than 40 years ago.
Yeah, so that was just an old name, and I just always thought that's kind of a neat name for a dwarf, and it's not like nothing I've seen before. I added I think it's Gellion Brightaxe. I didn't have a last name for him originally. Yeah, that's where it came from.